Okay, all are live.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to all viewers. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome all viewers on the 8th webinar in the series of homeopathic webinars conducted by Parul University. We at Parul University are dedicated to the motto that learning should not stop. With that, regular weekly webinars are held wherein the faculty, students and viewers from the fraternity of homeopathy can get the opportunity to listen and to interact with eminent physicians and clinicians of the homeopathic fraternity. The four constituent colleges of Parul University, Ahmedabad Homeopathic Medical College, Rajkot Homeopathic Medical College, Jawaharlal Nehru Homeopathic Medical College, and Parul Institute of Homeopathy and Research works as a team to see that the online studies, examination of the students are regularly conducted, and along with that, such webinars are conducted. Simultaneously, all our four attached hospitals, which are NABH accredited, works to the service of the community. Regular distribution of mask and the preventive arsenic album is done by our four hospitals. Our today's esteemed speaker is a well-known name in the homeopathic fraternity. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce Dr. Chaturbhuj Naik sir. He has a vast professional experience of 46 years, 37 years of teaching experience, and 28 years of research experience. Sir has served at important administrative posts like the principal and superintendent of AC Homeopathic Medical College, which is a college in Odisha. Sir is the Director General of CCRH. Sir is also the Director and Professor at Baxon Homeopathic Medical College and President of Homeopathic University of Jaipur. Sir has also served as a chairman of Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia Committee of India, Government of India, member of Central Council of Homeopathy, as well as chairman of PG and Education Committee of CCH. Sir has many publications to his name. He has authored 2 books and is the chief editor of 51 books. And Sir has also published more than 70 articles in the peer-reviewed journals, as well as Sir has published many articles in almost 100 journals. There are many things which can be credited to Sir, but not taking much time. I'm not going to elaborate all the credits of Dr. Chaturbhuj Naik sir. On behalf of Homeopathic Faculty of Parul University, my colleagues, Dr. Purav Desai, the Principal and the Dean of Homeopathic Faculty of Parul University, Dr. Panda Sir, the Principal of Parul Institute of Research in Homeopathy, as well as Dr. Hitat Mehta Sir, the Principal of Rajkot Homeopathic Medical College, and myself, Dr. Hina Rawal, Principal of Ahmedabad Homeopathic Medical College. I warmly welcome Sir to spare his valuable time and to share his experience and knowledge with our viewers today. Warm welcome, sir. Dr. Chaturbhuj Naik, sir. Please, sir.
Good morning to everybody. I'm extremely happy that you have given a very nice introduction for me. And my dear colleagues, my dear faculty, members of Parul University, other colleges, my dear PG, PhD and PG students. So today I'm very happy that I'm sharing some of my previous articles and some of my experience in the field of scientific publications. I'm extremely happy that your university is conducting so many webinars very regularly, and this is almost a pioneer university in the field of CAM. CAM means complementary and alternative medicine in the entire India, whole of India. So we will not take more time for this introduction. We will directly start. And today I will speak about scientific publications, because that publication is very important in the field of research, in the field of education. So those things we'll discuss slowly, gradually in the PPT. So today's topic will be scientific publications, why and how. wherever I go for any seminar or attending any seminar or as a speaker, I used to show this slide at the end of the presentation before telling thank you. But here I am showing this slide in the beginning due to some reason, because it is very relevant to the topic. Robert B. Taylor, who was the professor of Oregon University of USA, who told, you can have a brilliant idea, perform groundbreaking research, and write results with great proficiency. But if the paper is not published so that it can be cited, criticized, or praised, then all efforts has been largely wasted. That means what he is telling, it is very fantastic. It is very fantastic, and it is very encouraging also to the faculty members, to the PhD and PG scholars, because whatever research work we have done in the past or we are doing now, we must make all efforts to publish the results of those research works so that it will be available in the public domain. Once it is available in the public domain, then co-workers or maybe researcher, other research workers, other teachers, other PG students or PhD scholars, they may cite this article in their own article or in their own literature review. So that one is citation. Second is, if there are some mistakes in the articles, then they can criticize also, not negative criticism, but positive criticism. And if there is good things in the article, they will definitely praise. So there are three things: praising, citing, and criticizing. Criticizing, please don't take it as a negative criticism, but positive criticism, which will facilitate further corrections, further amendment in the publications of the research scholar. So this is very, very important, very, very inspiring for all of us, including the faculty members and also my dear students. Now, today's presentation will be divided into two parts: why there is we need scientific publications and how. So first part, which is a smaller part, we'll discuss about why we should do publications. Because if we do not do, we can have promotions, we can have other things, we have already got appointment. So why there is a need? First thing is to provide additional information and knowledge. To provide additional information and knowledge to the students, to the scholars, to the faculty also. To disseminate one's research study outcomes to the professional body. So whatever results or outcomes I have got out of research studies, through the publications, I will disseminate, I will convey my research study outcomes or results to the professional body. Means here, professional body means homeopathic fraternity. Third thing is to share and exchange of knowledge in a specific area. Suppose I have worked in the field of diabetes mellitus. So whatever result I have got, if I share with others in a specific area, in a particular area, that will also enhance the knowledge of my colleagues, other friends of the profession. And fourth point is to acquire essential criteria for personal growth and career building. You are in a very important university. They are also in the bylaws or in the essential criteria or desirable criteria for your promotion or appointment. These publications may be or must be one of the criteria. So this will also help us for personal growth and for career building. Say from assistant professor to associate professor, from associate professor to professor. These things, say, scientific publications will definitely help.
Sir, excuse me, please. Sir,
Yeah.
your volume is very low. If you can come nearer to the mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes,
So
yes,
for
yes,
any
yes. Thank you,
difficulty,
sir.
please tell me. So
Yes, sir.
fifth
Thank you,
point
sir.
is
Yes, sir.
to obtain recognition by the professional body in the relevant field. So once you have published some article, then the professional body may recognize you as a Dr. Hina Rawal. Hello. Sorry. So suppose Dr. Hina Rao has published some paper, scientific paper in IGRH, means in the journal of CCRH or maybe homeopathy journal. So what will happen? The professional body will give her some award or maybe some certificate of merit or certificate of honor. Something can be given to Dr. Panda or all the faculty who have written or done some good research in the particular field. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible now. Yes, sir.
Sixth point is to develop a source for literature review by others. Suppose some other people, suppose Dr. Panda has done research on or he has published a paper on type 2 diabetes mellitus. Then by publishing the paper on that topic, suppose somebody is doing research on diabetes mellitus type 2. Sorry, I have a bad throat due to change of weather. Last time नहीं हुआ था. So others, those who are doing research in the field of diabetes mellitus, they can do literature review by reading your article, by referring your article. Seventh point is to enhance one's knowledge further in the particular area after getting feedback from others. After reading the article, others after reading the article, they will give the feedback that there are mistakes here, there are good points here. So if the researcher has some minus points, then he can further improve after getting feedback from others. Then the last point is to obtain personal satisfaction for getting the work publicized among a larger audience. Many times we do the work for our personal satisfaction. Somebody is donating something, he gets personal satisfaction. Somebody is taking a good class or giving a lecture in a seminar, he has got, if the audience gives clapping, loud clapping, then he gets personal satisfaction. So from a larger audience, so suppose Dr. Hina Rao has published an article, so that will be not confined to Parul University. So that will be going to the entire profession all over the world, and she will get personal satisfaction that I have been recognized, I have been read, my article has been read by large number of audience. Now the second part, the main part is how to write, how to make publication. This is the main part. The second part or the main part, sorry. Sorry. Now, this is more important not for teachers, but for scholars, PG students or PhD students, may be also helpful for the teachers. I have developed two formula or two acronyms or two mnemonics for writing the structure of the article. One is IMRAD, the other is TACARAC. One is IMRAD formula, which stands, I stands for introduction, IM stands for methods, R stands for results, A stands for and D stands for discussion. One formula is, one mnemonic or acronym is IMRAD. And the second is TACARAC. T stands for title, A for authors, second A for abstract, K for keywords, A for acknowledgements, R for references, A for appendices, C for conclusion. So please don't think that we have to write in the same order, means first IMRAD, then TACARAC. Please don't think. Now we have to rearrange, and I have already rearranged for you. And this table, this is the right way. This has been presented from beginning to end. What is that? Of course, all of you know. I am just revising it. One is title. First is title, then authors, then abstract, keywords, introduction, materials and methods, results, discussion, conclusion, acknowledgements, references, and lastly appendices. So please have a look. Please have a again look. This is the format, and you may take the photograph. You may take the photograph of this because this is very important. A standard format. A standard format for writing scientific article in a scientific way is the most important structure. Now, first we'll start with the title. So, there are some, very recently we have written an article, we have sent to Homeopathic Heritage, how to write article. And that I have written over 6 pages or 7 pages. But here, let me tell you very briefly, there are some standard guidelines how to write an article. One is describe contents of an article clearly and precisely. So what is the function of a title? A title describes the contents of the article very clearly and very precisely, not in a big way. Then helps in identifying the keywords. We'll discuss about the keywords in the next slide. But please remember that keywords, just like key for a door, these keywords help us to know more about the article, to get the full article from the databases. So here, the articles also helps us to find out the keywords. Almost it is almost rightly told as article is the advertisement of an article. Title is the advertisement. It makes advertisement for the title. But there are some restrictions. Do not include abbreviations, formula, and jargons. Jargons means very high sounding words, unintelligent words. Please don't include those things. Means formulas, abbreviations, and high unintelligible or jargons in the title. This is the standard. There are many other guidelines. Don't make the title sensational. I'll discuss in the next slide. Now, the titles are basically divided into 3 parts. This is very useful slide for so far as titles are concerned. There are 3 types of titles mainly. One is indicative or descriptive title, which indicate the subject matter of an article but doesn't tell about the results. I think when you will finish this, it will be very clear. So, indicative and descriptive titles, they tell about everything except results. They indicate everything except results. They do not tell about the results. When you read the title, descriptive title or indicative title, results are not mentioned. When you go to second category, one is informative or declarative title. Here, it gives an indication of the subject matter of the article as well as result. So in this is more important variety of or category of title, where the informative title and descriptive title, it gives an indication of the subject matter. So what is the subject matter below that gives, or in the text or in the content, that gives an information, but as well as results also. So that's why the reader can know what was the result of this study, which was done by the author or by the researcher. Then third is interrogative title. From the name itself, it is very clear. The titles are written in the form of a question. The title is written in the form of a question. For example, as here I will give you one example that is called indicative or descriptive title. Effectiveness of belladonna in preventing Japanese encephalitis virus infection in chorioallantoic membrane. When I was the DG and there was a severe attack from Lancet against homeopathy, then we conducted the study in School of Tropical Medicine, Kolkata, and this was published in the very famous international journal. And here the title is Effectiveness of Belladonna in Preventing Japanese Encephalitis Virus Infection on Chorioallantoic Membrane. Here, the effect of belladonna on JE virus, the title is not telling. That means the reader, after going through the entire contents of the article, can know what happened with the belladonna. But in second type of article, let me read out. Belladonna prevents JE virus infection in chorioallantoic membrane. That means in the second category of title, the author is clearly telling that belladonna can prevent JE virus infection in chorioallantoic membrane. Chorioallantoic membrane means this is an egg. From egg, you know that yellow part, in the yellow part, inside the yellow part, there is a membrane called chorioallantoic membrane. And in the laboratory, when the belladonna was given first and then JE virus was inoculated, then there was no effect. There is no virulence of the effect of JE virus, which is very, very dangerous. Then interrogative title or question type title. Here the title is, can belladonna prevent JE virus infection in chorioallantoic membrane? So this is a question mark. This is a question mark. So please let me tell to my friends here and to my dear students that usually this question type, the third type of title can be used in thesis and dissertation. Sorry, not used in thesis and dissertation, can be used in title to make it attractive. This question type or interrogative type of titles can be used in articles, but not in thesis or dissertations. Now let us come. There are some do's and do nots. There are some do's and don'ts about the title. First rule is it should be brief but informative. An ideal title should be brief but informative. Let us see the first title: Homeopathy and Allopathy in COVID-19. This is the very, very brief, very concise, very short, which fulfills the guideline of title, which fulfills the criteria of title writing. But is it informative? No, because it is so small. That is not informative. So alternatively, I am telling you, individualized homeopathy versus standard allopathic treatment in the management of COVID-19, a prospective, randomized, comparative trial. So this title is an ideal title. Why? Here intervention is given, means treatment methods are given. One is homeopathy, the other is standard allopathic treatment. So here treatment name is given and that is called intervention. So what is intervention? That is homeopathic treatment and allopathic treatment. So what is the clinical condition? Clinical condition is COVID-19. Then what is the study design? Study design is a prospective, randomized, comparative trial. I think this is a very good title because it is brief, it is concise, but as well as informative. Now let us come to authors. Because due to shortage of time, and Dr. Ponda also told me, he cautioned me that you have to finish within 1 hour, which includes introduction, conclusion, and vote of thanks, etc., and question answer hour. Then coming to authors. Here there is an international standard that recommendations, one international recommendations or recommendations by an international body. What is that international body? International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. So long back they sat together. ICM JE, they sat together and they made some recommendations. So all authors should fulfill those guidelines, and very briefly I am telling you what are those guidelines. Who is eligible to be author? He must have substantial contribution for the research. One who is eligible to fulfill the authorship, he must have significant contribution or substantial contribution for research. Second is article drafting. Third is accountability for article. Accountability for article means, I think first two things are very easy. Accountability for the article means, suppose Parul University is publishing a journal and I have sent one article on scientific publications, why and how. And the chief editor will tell me, or some reader will tell, this I have copied from others. and I have not followed the structure of an article. So now many people, many readers may raise some objections. So authors should be accountable. I must be responsible. Whatever I have written or we have written, suppose we are 5 authors, we 5 authors have written this single article, and we are all accountable, responsible for outcomes of the article. If there is a challenge, if there is a court case, whatever may be, I must be accountable. So very briefly, I am telling you the recommendations of ICM JE for writing article. And number 1 is he must have significant contribution, important contribution, substantial contribution for doing research, and he must have participated in writing the manuscript or drafting the article. And third thing is he must sign one format that I am accountable for the outcome of the article. Then, but please remember, the second bullet is most important. Second bullet is most important, and that is applicable to every slide. That is applicable to every slide. Every slide, follow the guidelines of the concerned journal. Suppose Parul University is publishing a journal which is not satisfying the recommendations of, or slightly deviating the recommendations of ICM JE. Slightly deviating or major deviations, but when I am submitting an article to the Journal of Parul University, I have to follow the guidelines for writing articles. And usually what happens in every issue of the journal, if the journal is annual or biannual or maybe quarterly, or usually the journals give in the towards the end of the all the articles, at the end of the journal, they usually give the guidelines. But the famous journals, reputed journals, what they do, they publish in the last issue of the year these instructions to the authors, the guidelines for authors in the last issue. Then time. Then authors, who can be the authors of an article? One may be researcher, the other may be guide or supervisor, and third may be any colleague, co-academic, that you have to choose. Then in the article you have to give designations and addresses of the authors. In the article, in the beginning, you have to write the title, then you have to write the authors' names, then you have to write their designations and addresses. But suppose there are 5 authors for one article, and out of the 5 authors, one should be addressed for, one should be corresponding author, because the chief editor of the Parul University Journal will not write to 5 authors. The chief editor will write to the corresponding author, or one of the authors, which will be identified by all the 5 authors, who will make direct correspondence. Now you see, here the article name is Homeopathic Individualized LM Potency versus Centesimal Potencies for Pain Management of Cervical Spondylosis, a multi-center, prospective, randomized clinical study. And you see here there are 9 authors. Here there are, because first title, then authors, then their positions, then lastly corresponding author or address for correspondence. So out of the 9 authors, 5 authors belong to, here you see there is a symbol. Here you see there is a symbol. Before C Nayak, after C Nayak, there is a star mark and there is a number 1. So wherever against 5 authors, there are numbers 1. That means 1 stands for the organization, the institution to whom they belong. So second author and second two, there are 2 authors. They are from one institute at Hyderabad. Then third author, single author, he belongs to Jaipur, and 4th author belongs to Noida. That means, in short, I am repeating: author's name, their positions, their institution, and one of the authors should be address for correspondence, where you have to give the name, then designation, then institution, email ID, and if possible, mobile number. Then coming to abstract. Abstract is a mini version of the article. So suppose you have written article over, say, 10 pages, but abstract will be written in 1 or 2 pages, and that is a mini version of the article. It provides brief summary of each of the main sections of the article. So abstract, it provides the summary of each section of the main article. It may be emerald formula, following emerald formula, or maybe introduction or background, materials and methods, results, discussion and conclusion. Then after going through the abstract, the reader decides whether to read the full article or not. So this is very important, because no reader, no scholar or no teacher, no faculty will read the full article first. He or she will read the abstract first. If the abstract is very interesting, very informative, very educative, then we will go to the main article, full article. So here there are some guidelines. Abstract should be written within 250 words in case of structured abstract. I will tell in the next slide. I will show you in the next slide. There is a structured abstract. There is a unstructured abstract. So in the structured abstract, it should contain how many words? 250 words. And the unstructured abstract, 200 words. Sorry, 150 words. The abstract should be written in the usually in the past tense. But although the abstract portion appears in the beginning of the article, but it should be written at the end. You draft the article, you draft the manuscript, but don't draft the abstract first. After writing the entire manuscript, at the end you write abstract. And there is some in the red, means I have put these 2 lines in the red, means these are very common mistakes done by some of the authors. Abstract should not carry any reference. Abstract should not carry any reference. Second warning is, should not give any information not stated in the article. So whatever information you have not given within the article, please don't write those data or information within the abstract. Am I clear? Is it clear? Achha.
Yes, sir.
So now this is the example of one structured abstract, but I am not going to read due to time constraint. So here there are how many headings? One is introduction, second is methods, third is results, and fourth is conclusion. These are the 4 points in the form of a structure. But in case of unstructured abstract, it is written continuously. There is no heading like introduction, no heading like method, no heading like result, no heading like conclusion. So this is called unstructured abstract. So structured abstract should be limited to 250 words, whereas unstructured abstract should be limited to 150 words. Now coming to next point, keywords. So these keywords are called keywords because they are they can unlock the door to get useful information. These keywords, just like we open the door with the help of the key and enter the room. Similarly, to enter the article, we have to unlock we have to take the help of the keywords. But most important help given by keywords are, that is, keywords help us to find out information about the research topic. So keywords help us. What is the research topic? It gives a hints. But most important is keywords help us to retrieve the article or similar articles from different database, electronic databases. This is the most important function of the keywords. What it does, by reading the keywords, we can, if you type suppose keywords homeopathy, then diabetes mellitus, then you write some of the medicines. Then if you type all the things from the internet, you will find out the entire article, your article, or similar articles, means other authors, other researchers who have done work on this field. Just see here the title is Role of Individualized Homeopathic Medicines in the Treatment of Psoriasis, a case series. This is the title. And keywords: homeopathy, 1, second, individualized medicine, psoriasis, case series. So these are 4 keywords, and these 4 keywords we have taken from where? We have taken from title. These keywords we have taken from title. So I have told you what are the functions of the title. What is the function of the title? It provides the keywords. It helps, each title helps us to identify the keywords. Next section is introduction. When you write introduction, please imagine a funnel. Please imagine a inverted pyramid. Please imagine an inverted triangle. So entire introduction should be divided into three parts. First part is what is known. Second part is what is not known. And third part is why you are studying. So this is very clear. First part is what is known. Second part is known means known about your study. Then second part is what is not known about your study. Then third part is why you took up this study, why you conducted this study. So this is very, very important. Then, and that thing I presented in a picture form. Now I tell you very briefly what are the three sections will contain. First is beginning paragraph. It provides background information about the topic. It provides the background information about the topic. Whatever topic you have done research or whatever topic you have written in the article, that background information is provided by the beginning section of the article, introduction. Second thing, introduction, introduce and review of items. You have to write, introduce and you have to review items of previous research in the area. That means whatever previous research done by other people, maybe your colleagues, maybe international experts, maybe national experts, if they have done some research and what they are telling, what is their opinion, and you have to that also you have to write in the second part, in the beginning paragraph. Then about any important findings or theories which led to your study or influenced your work. This is very important. You have to write in the introduction, first paragraph that which were the findings of other people, which were the theories of other people they have developed, which influenced your work, or which tempted your work, which tempted you to conduct the study. Then middle section, mention deficiencies in the past studies related to your topic. I told you while showing the funnel, first part is what is known, second part is what is not known, means what are the deficiencies, lacunae in the current field, means your field. Here I have seen in the past, long past of my long experience, I have found that many scholars, many teachers also, some of not many, a few teachers, those who are not serious about the dissertation writing, about the article writing, they write, suppose my topic is diabetes, type 2 diabetes mellitus. But I am writing about type 1 diabetes mellitus. So please do not write about type 1 diabetes mellitus if your topic is on type 2 diabetes mellitus. And the last section is, end section is, tell the reader your aim and objectives. The question you attempted to answer. What was your research question? What was the aim of your study? What was the objective of study? That means if you imagine the funnel, what was written in the third part? Why your study? That means main objective of the study. You have to write in the introduction. Next part is materials and methods. It is very clear. One part is materials. Second part is methods or methodology. So materials includes things you have used for your experiments, medicines, reagents, then human or animal subjects, means samples, then equipment, instruments, etc. These are called materials. Maybe your case record, maybe other, so many things are there, but I have told you I am discussing here only the main things. Then second part is methodology or methods. Here it means processes you have used. So during your study, during your research work, what methodology you have adopted. That will include study design, randomization, blinding, sampling, data collection, follow-up strategy. These are the methods you have used. But you may not use all the methods. Like you might not have used all the materials. But what material you have used, what methodology you have used, you please write those things in your article. Now coming to different sections, I will quickly, all of you know very thoroughly, but I will just quickly pass on what are the different materials and methods. Study setting, first study setting means where the study was done, study site, then study duration, period of study, participants, how many participants were enrolled in your study, which on the basis of what? On the basis of inclusion and exclusion criteria. On the basis of inclusion and exclusion criteria, we decide the samples, we decide the participants. Then coming to study design. So this is very important from the point of biostatistics. So whether it was an observational study or it was an experimental study. Experimental study, the other name is interventional study, where you give an intervention. Then prospective or retrospective study, then control study or uncontrolled study, randomized study or non-randomized study, then open study or blind study or a pilot study or any other study design you have adopted in your study, in your research, that you have to mention. Then coming to intervention. Intervention doesn't mean that interfere. Here intervention means whether homeopathy, allopathy or Ayurveda, Unani, and since we are doing, suppose somebody has done research with the homeopathic medicine. So homeopathic medicine is the intervention. Then you have to write which was the manufacturer, which pharmaceutical manufactured this medicine. Then name of the medicine, dosage, form means whether you have given in liquid form or globule form or tablet form, and what was the repetition schedule. What was your repetition schedule, whether you gave every day or alternate day or weekly or fortnightly. Those things you have to write. Then previous slide was telling about intervention. Here this slide tells about the co-intervention. Just like guide and co-guide, here also you can take up another intervention along with the main intervention. What is that? Main intervention is homeopathy medicine. Co-intervention is CAM. CAM means complementary and alternative medicine. What is that? Unani, Ayurveda, Siddha, naturopathy, yoga or acupuncture, whatever may be, or acupressure, whatever may be, or even conventional medicine. So if you remember the previous slide, when I showed the ideal title, I have told that there is a comparative study between the conventional medicine and or allopathy medicine along with the homeopathy medicine in COVID. So there also the researcher took conventional medicine, otherwise known as mainstream medicine or allopathic medicine. There are so many terms. Then non-medicinal style, the advice is diet, exercise and lifestyle advice. So whatever you have given advice, that you suppose in case of diabetes, you must have advised to not to take sugar, and in case of obesity, you must have advised to do regular exercise and other lifestyle, like to avoid sedentary life, to do yoga, other things. Whatever you have advised, that you should also tell. These were co-intervention. Then coming to outcome assessment. So how you have assessed the outcome or the result of your study, that you have to mention. So what are the ways? One may be clinical status, from clinical status, or from laboratory data, or from the quality of life. So here to assess the clinical status, from the clinical status of point of view, you can take some scales. There are some internationally accepted scales, like for pain to assess magnitude of pain, to assess intensity of the pain, there is one scale called VAS, means visual analog scale. Or for depression, because there are some disease specific scales. So whatever disease you are doing research, that particular scale, if available at international level, accepted scale, then it is better to take. Or you have to, otherwise, international level, if there is no scale, then you have to take, and there you have to decide a scale, taking the help of some experts and statisticians. Say for depression, HDRS, Hamilton Depression Rating Scale. Then another important thing, quality of life. Quality of life, Usually, for quality of life, the researcher usually we take a general quality of life scale, so recommended by WHO. And what is the name of that scale? The name of the scale is WHO QOL. WHO QOL means QOL brief. WHO QOL brief. That is the name of the um, scale developed by WHO, recommended by WHO to assess the quality of life of patients in general. And usually that scale, because it will take a long time, so let us, because you most of you know, or you can download from the net. Then disease specific quality of life scale is, say for rheumatoid arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis scale, QOLRA scale, quality of life rheumatoid arthritis scale. This is disease specific quality of life scale.
Morning.
Now coming to methods used for data collection. Methods
Good
used.
morning. Sorry, yes, sir.
Any problem?
देखो दे
Any,
अभी चल ही रहा
any problem?
No, no, sir. My mistake. I think so. One mic was unmuted. Carry
Okay.
on, sir. Hitat, sir, unmute your mic. Hitat, sir.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So
Sir, carry on.
methods used for data collection. So here the tools are case records, the scales I gave the example, then some questionnaires. Questionnaires you have to develop that again quality of life, because WHO has recommended from 4 areas to assess quality of life of a patient from 4 areas. One is physical, second is psychological, third is environmental, and fourth is social. So different skills are there, maybe vast scale also, then questionnaires, then lab investigations. So from these things, by using these tools, you can also go for, usually the researcher goes for data collection. Next is statistical method. So please remember, we have to write the statistical tool, statistical method the researcher has applied, has used during his research study. So it may be, he has to mention the statistical method, and if he has taken the help of any software, computer software for statistical analysis, then he should write the software name. Here, please remember, this is a common mistake not done not by teachers but by a few students. What is that? Appropriate statistical method was used. They write in the dissertation, they write in the internship project report, they write in the even in the PhD thesis. They write appropriate statistical method was used. So this is a serious lapse. Please do not do that. So nowadays, due to the advancement of knowledge, most of these scholars are aware, they are not committing this mistake. Next we'll go to result section. Result section is usually divided into 4 parts. That means you have to write the results of the article in 4 components. What are they? One is text, second is tables, third is figures, which include photos, graphs, images, reports, and reportorial sheets, etc. By writing figures, some people have wrong impression that figure mean only picture. No. Figures include these things: photos, graphs, images. What do you mean by images? Images means this maybe CT scan image, maybe this ultrasound image, or biopsy image. And then we are very much convergent with reports also, lab reports and reportorial sheet. Then last part is statistical analysis. So let me tell you here, in the previous section I told you statistical method. That is under the which section? Materials and methods. There I told statistical method. That means there you should not write about the statistical analysis. You have to write only which statistical tool you have used. That's all. Which software, statistical software you have used. But in the result section, you have to do the statistical analysis, which is very, 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 very important. Now coming to first part, that is text. You have to highlight, the author has to highlight important outcomes or findings or results of your study. then indicate in the text. Text means whatever you write in a narrative way. Text means whatever you write in a narrative way. So that is called, that is the text part. So you have to indicate in the text part, you have to indicate figure or figures, tables where the article result. So sorry, where the result can be found. Suppose you are writing about the effect of your, in the result section, in the test section, you are writing about the effects of 50 millismol potency in your study. Suppose you are describing, and in a table also or in a figure, you have also described or you have also documented, just to make it more interesting or more focused. So there, while discussing within the text, you have to write within bracket table number dash or figure number dash, so that reader will do what? Reader will go through the text and reader will see the table also or the figure. Then here, third point is state the results very clearly and very simple language, because you are sharing new knowledge to the readers. Please don't think that the readers or the users, they do not know anything about your study, because your study outcomes, your methodology is totally, your aims and objectives are totally new to them, because they have not conducted your study. So in your writing results, because results is the most important part of your research, because everybody wants to know what happened. So this section should be written very clearly and very simply, so that it will be very much comprehensible, understandable to the readers. And this is an example of table. I don't want to read it. And but one thing is, let me tell you here, which is very important: where to use table and where to use graph. There are some standard guidelines. Time will not permit. We have to finish within 1 hour. So please remember, wherever there is multiple data, multiple factors, you have to show in one particular place, then please use table. Wherever you have to reflect multiple data or so many raw data at one place, use table. Otherwise, if the number of parameters, number of data are very less, then you can use graph. And you see, I told you earlier that results part or result section also includes photographs, images, and report real sheet. So these are the examples. And you see, these are the graphs. Graphs include bar diagrams, pie chart, line graph, and histogram. There are also guidelines where to use what. So those things please read. Your teacher of faculty of or teacher of biostatistics must have told you, or research methodology must have told you. And then adverse events. After giving homeopathic medicines, if there was some adverse effects, maybe medicinal aggravation, maybe disease aggravation, maybe homeopathy aggravation, if there are some adverse events, then you have to, that is called ADR, adverse drug reaction. If there is anything like this, so you have to also mention. But here there are some cautions. What are them? Some cautions or some warnings while writing result section. So first is provide information on all parameters. Provide information on all parameters mentioned in the materials and method section, which were evaluated. So whatever parameters you have included in the method section, what happened to those, or what happened to those areas, or what happened to those experiments, whatever experiments. Suppose you have taken so many experiments, you have done so many parameters you have taken in the method section or in the methodology. So what happened to each parameter, that has to be shown in the result section. This happens usually in case of PhD thesis, because PhD thesis means some original research work, and they usually take more parameters, and you have to write each parameter separately in the result section. And just reverse, do not write result for any parameter not included in the materials method section. Just opposite. Second bullet is the opposite of first bullet. So many students, they write the parameters about which they have not done the experiment. So this is totally wrong. And third is, do not give some data, same data in tables as well as graph. So I have put in a red line because most of the PG students, out of being tempted to make it more attractive, with an intention to make it more attractive their dissertation, they put the same data in text, same data in table, same data in figure. So I am again repeating, do not give same data in table and graph. But text is a must. You have to mention the result in the text. Suppose you have mentioned in the result that homeopathic medicines gave better results in the treatment of, means results in this area in the treatment of COVID. That means fever was less, sore throat was less, breathing difficulty was less than allopathic medicine. So same thing, you may show the data, show me the figure in a table or in a graph, but don't give the same data in the table as well as figure or graph. The last is include statistical analysis. As I have told you, statistical analysis part, you have to show exhaustively in a thesis and very comprehensively in case of dissertation, and you have to mention whether your results were statistically significant or not. This is very important. You have to show whether your results were statistically significant or not. For these things, for doing all the statistical analysis, you may take the help of a biostatistician if required. Then coming to discussion. Here there are usually three things, not warnings, three things to follow. First is discuss the results, do not repeat the results. In this section, you have to discuss your results. So whatever results you found in the result section you have mentioned, those things you can discuss in this section. But don't repeat the same language, whatever you wrote in the result section. Second is compare your results with the previous research studies in reported in the literature. So whatever similar studies done in your area means your topic, whatever others have done, you have to compare with them. And while comparing, please remember, you have to write either your results. Hello.
Panda sir, you are sharing your screen. Panda sir, stop sharing your screen, Panda sir. Panda sir, you have shared your screen, Panda sir. Please stop sharing your screen. Panda sir.
So I have to stop the sharing. Okay.
Yes, you stop sharing your screen.
Yes, I was telling on the discussion section. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are audible.
So please remember three things. One is discuss your results, do not repeat the results. Second part is compare your findings with others' findings mentioned in the literature, mentioned in journals or mentioned in the books, whether they agree those findings or your findings agree with those findings or disagree. So please remember, this is the most important part, interesting part. If suppose, I am giving one example, suppose Abroma Augusta, you are doing the study with Abroma Augusta mother tincture in case of type 2 diabetes mellitus. And in your study, you found that the blood sugar was drastically reduced after giving Abroma Augusta mother tincture 20 drops thrice daily. But when you read other literature, you find that the other researcher, he has also done a study with the Abroma Augusta in type 2 diabetes mellitus, but he has succeeded by giving 10 drops thrice daily or twice daily. So when the 10 drops work, why to go for 20 drops? Then another person can do that similar study, means with 10 drops and 20 drops, and let them see which dosage works better. So you have to write either both ways, either your findings corroborate or agree with those findings or disagree with your findings, means different. Suppose you found that PCOD was more prevalent in the age group of 15 to 20. But when I worked with PCOD or PCOS, I found that my samples, my participants, my patients were more in the age group of 20 to 25 or 20 to 30. So here, my findings, my observations are not similar to the previous research or present research like this. The third thing is limitations of your study. What were the constraints for your study? Maybe inadequate sample size was low, then less study duration. You got the PG students got less time to complete the study. Then more dropout, maybe some people are cured, they have left the place, they are not coming to you. Then non-compliance of the study protocol. Then whatever the procedures of your research you have communicated to the study participants, they are not following, they have not followed. Those things you have to write very clearly. Suppose you have told them to take the medicine on empty stomach, he was taking after food. Like this, you have advised for daily exercise, he was not doing daily exercise. So those things you can also write. And the last one is conclusion. Here also there are four guidelines in the conclusion. One is you have to consolidate, you have to concise, or you have to focus your research findings. So far, whatever research findings you got out of the study, you have to write here very comprehensively in a small paragraph. Comprehensive means very concisely you have to write. Then second thing is how far this your aim and objectives have been fulfilled. Suppose you had 5 objectives to find whether the constitutional medicines help, or the individualist medicines help, or the organ specific medicines help, or on the basis of past history or family history that helps in prescription. So you have suppose 5 or 5 objectives, and here you have to write out of the study. After the study, you could fulfill the objectives, 2 objectives, but the third objective could not be fulfilled, or 3 objectives could be fulfilled, but 2 objectives could not be fulfilled. Then what are the practical implications or applications of your study? This is very good, because this is very important, because suppose you have done the study, how far it is helpful for the profession. What is suppose Dr. Hina sir, she has done a study on COVID. Unless she writes that after the end of the study, arsenic was helpful, or gelsimum was helpful, or brownias was helpful, or phosphorus was helpful, unless by writing these things, it will go to the profession. So number 2, 2 people will be benefited, 2 sectors will be benefited. One is profession and policymakers. Suppose at the end of the study, you find that arsenic is very good for preventive, then policymakers sitting in the Ayush Ministry, they will tell, yes, Dr. Ponda and his team, they have done this study very scientifically. Let us adopt this in our advisory. And the last one is recommendations for the future study. Here you have to recommend, because in one study, you cannot do everything, all aspects of the disease. So you can advise, you can suggest, you can recommend for future generation that you take the study with a greater sample size. Suppose you have taken the study with 50 patients. So that may be inadequate. With greater sample size, more study duration, you have done the study within 1.5 years. So you think that, you realize that the study duration must be at least 3 years. Then better study design. Suppose your study design was only pilot study, or it was an observational study. But what is the gold standard? What is the most important study design? RCT, not root canal treatment, but randomized randomized control trial. That is the gold standard of research at the international level. If that you can suggest here, suppose you have taken up an observational study, you have taken up a cohort study, you have taken up a case control study, but here there are some limitations. So to make it rationalize, you can recommend for a RCT with a better study design, with a more rigor. Now coming to reference. This section will take more time, so I am telling very quickly. You know, references means whatever reference means the list. You have to give the list of journals or maybe reports, maybe books you have referred in your article, because in our topic is scientific publications, not a newspaper article. It is not a newspaper article that you should not give reference, but in a scientific publications you have to give references. Then coming to different styles, just like our hairstyle, Dr. Ponda has a different hairstyle. I have a different hairstyle. Madam has a different hairstyle. Just like we have different hairstyles, similarly, there are some different styles for writing references, like APA style, American Psychological Association, MLS style, Modern Language Association. So, like that, but in medical science, in biomedical science, we usually follow two systems, two styles. One is Harvard style, second is Vancouver style. And most of the journals, they recommend for Vancouver style. So here, but we'll start with the Harvard style. In Harvard, if you follow the Harvard style of referencing, then citations are given in the text of the article, mentioning surname of the author and year of publication. Suppose Dr. Hina Raval, she has written an article on integration of educational research and published that article in a journal. So, and now Dr. Ponda wants to refer to her statement. She has written that yes, it should be integrated, and there should be PowerPoint presentation. There should be teacher of anatomy must read what are the researches done in anatomy first, so that will be more interesting. So, and Dr. Ponda is now giving reference to the previous her article. And while giving reference in the text of the article, not in the reference section, in the text of the article, then after the end of the paragraph or after the end of the sentence or in the middle of the sentence, he should write within bracket Raval, not Hina, surname, comma, suppose that article was published, her article was published in 2018. Then Dr. Ponda has to write within bracket Raval, comma, and 2018. Bracket over. Similarly, he has to write down one after another like this, and at the end, what will happen? At the end, in the reference section, there will be end. At the end, there will be reference section. The order of citations is alphabetical. You have to write alphabetically under the reference section, and not depending upon the chronology or order in which they are stated in the text of the article. Suppose you have written first Dr. Raval, then say Nayak, then next say Agrawal. But in the reference section, if you are following Harvard style, then you have to write alphabetically. I shall show you. You see here. Here there were how many authors? 5 authors. There are 5 authors, and when you write the reference section, you see the surnames are written alphabetically. First M, then N, then P, then P, then V, then lastly W. So these are written alphabetically. The first alphabet of the surname of each author, it is written. This is about the Harvard style. But many journals also follow, today they are also following Harvard style. But let me tell you again, you have to follow the guidelines of the particular journal to which you are sending. Then coming to Vancouver style. Here the references are numbered consecutively in the order in which they are mentioned in the text. So first you are writing 1, then you are writing 2, then you are writing 3. Writing means in the text, wherever Dr. Hina Raval's statement appears, there you have to write first 1. Suppose next para you are giving my reference, then you have to write 2, not Nayak, not Raval. Am I clear? So here under, if you are following Vancouver style, you have to give the references consecutively. You have to write the references consecutively in the order in which they are mentioned in the text. By giving example, it will be very clear. Here you see, here first M was not there, Marwa name is not there. Because in the previous Harvard style, M was first there, but here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you are mentioning on the reference section in the same chronological order. First, what you have mentioned, Dr. S. Veer first. You have referred S. Veer first in the article or in the text. Second, NIHFW. Next, WHO. Next, Pandav CS. Next, R.K. Marwa. So you have to write in the same order in reference section. Now, I will not repeat because these are the references, how to refer journal article, then how to refer a book, journal article, how to refer a journal article, how to refer a book, and how to refer country, a chapter of a book. Here this is slightly different from this book, because suppose one book is written. Suppose one book is written by a book. One book contains about 10 chapters, and each chapter is written by one author, and you are following only one chapter. So there you have to write like this. You have to write first author of the chapter, then name of the chapter, then you have to give include some article there in, then there are different styles. So I will request, of course, all the faculty members must be knowing, all the PhD scholars and PG students, they must be knowing. I request all of you to have a printout, hard copy, how to write references following Vancouver style or following Harvard style. Please, I am requesting all of you, please have a hard copy, how to write references following Harvard style and following Vancouver style. So here I will not go through detail time due to paucity of time. So next is how to refer internet, how to refer e-book or internet book, how to refer e-journal, how to refer. This is very interesting. When the author is an organization, not an individual, like Parul University is the author of an article, how to refer. Then dissertation. Suppose I am referring another person's, another student's thesis or dissertation, how to do that, and I am referring somebody's newspaper article. Then there are some styles, fixed standards, fixed guidelines by the Vancouver style, by the Harvard style that you have to follow. Rigidly you have to follow. Then coming to plagiarism. What is plagiarism? Plagiarism is the way of copying another person's ideas or processes or results or words or sentences without giving appropriate credit to the original source. Suppose Dr. Hina Rawal has written one article, Dr. Ponda is referring to Dr. Hina Rawal, but he is not giving credit to whom? Dr. Rawal. So he is thinking that why shall I give credit to him, or I am writing the article, so I shall not give the reference of Dr. Hina Rawal. But that will amount to plagiarism. Whether you take a picture, whether you take some reference from any source, you have to give the reference. Here I will tell you, quickly I will tell you who are the person, but if you do not follow, if you adopt plagiarism, you will be punished. And I will cite only VIPs who have been punished. One is Farid Zakaria, he got Padma Bhushan Award by Government of India, by President of India. Then Deepak Pental, Vice Chancellor, former Vice Chancellor of Delhi University. Then R.A. Maselkar, former Director General of CSIR. So these are the big people who have been punished. I shall just show you the picture. Newspaper cutting. Zakaria loses media job. He lost the job. He was getting about 30 lakhs per annum, per month. He lost the job. But he begged apology, then he got back the job. Then Maselkar takes back his report after plagiarism row. He published a paper along with his PhD friend, the PhD students or PG student, and when there is a complaint by somebody, then he has to withdraw the report. Otherwise, he would have been punished. Next, you see the poor man, ex-Vice Chancellor Pental, sent to jail for plagiarism. A big man, a Vice Chancellor, was sent to jail for plagiarism, but was released after begging apology. So I have told you, who is he? Chetan Bhagat, he wrote a novel, and somebody complained that few lines are plagiarized in his book. Somebody went to court, and the court directed Mr. Bhagat, you cannot sell this book. So Bhagat, accused of plagiarism, court stalls sale of his new novel. His novel was not in the market. It was withdrawn from the market. Next, a politician. Some report the government of Bihar published, and there also some plagiarism was there. So somebody went to court, then he paid fine only of 20,000. But till then, I have given the plagiarism examples of one politician, one novelist, and one journalist, and two highly educated, highly placed academicians. Okay, and let me tell you, the rule is whenever somebody has helped Dr. Hina or Dr. Panda or any other faculty or any other PG student or PhD students in the research study, if he is fulfilling the criteria of ICM JE to be an author, then include his name as author. But somebody has helped you in typing, somebody has helped you in data collection, so you can acknowledge them at the end of the article. So whom should you acknowledge? Critical review by or review of your study proposal. Funding agency, somebody has given you 1 crore. Nobody will give 1 crore for 1 crore for doing research on homeopathy. So say 10 lakhs, 1 lakh, 5 lakhs. Then scientists who provided technical support to you in the research. Then laboratory staff, library staff, head of the department or head of the institution. Then persons who helped in data collection, typing of the manuscript, or study participants. So you must be writing, we acknowledge the help rendered by the study participants. Without study participants, your research has no meaning. Then statistician who helped in your data analysis. And lastly, the colleagues who helped in editing or proofreading. Suppose you have written an article and you must show to your friend, because I cannot know my mistake. You should show to your friend, please read it, and you have to acknowledge his name. Then these are the appendices. In the appendix, you can give a photograph, image, and ultrasound report. And here there are some ethical issues you have to follow, some moral issues you have to follow. Disclose the conflict of interest. If you have any conflict of interest, if you have any link with any pharmaceutical from which you got the funding source, that you have to tell. Acknowledge funding source also, if any. Avoid duplicate publication. Yes. Here, don't send the same article to 2 different or 3 different journals. Many people do. Some people do. Next is, don't use work of others without giving appropriate citation. So don't follow plagiarism. You will be punished. List only those authors who contributed substantially. I have told you, only as per, please follow ICM JE guideline. Only those who have contributed significantly, you write their name as authors. Then protect patients' right to privacy. Don't give their photographs. When giving their photographs, you conceal their identity by putting a black strip across their eyes. Then avoid scientific fraud. Scientific fraud means, please do not manipulate your data, because many times to make the result positive, statistically positive, we request the statistician, please make my results positive, so that the audience will be satisfied, readers will be satisfied. But that is a scientific fraud. Please remember, research is research. Research is research. Research is blind. So tell the truth. Very recently, we have published one systematic review, which is the highest type of strength in the research evidence. So there we have told that most of the results, most of research studies in neurological disorders using homeopathy medicine, many studies were negative, results were negative. So fact is fact, we have told the truth. And many readers appreciated our article. Then before submitting article, this is the last slide. Before submitting article, select your target journal. Even before writing the manuscript, select whether I should give to the homeopathy, international level, very famous, IJRH or homeopathic links, or to homeopathic heritage, or whatever journal, the journal of our homeopathy university, you decide. Then carefully read articles of the particular journal published in the previous issues. Suppose you have decided that you will give to the Indian Journal of Research in Homeopathy, which is the journal of CCRH, you have decided, then you read the previous issues of the journal, so that you will be comfortable, you will be accustomed with the previous, how they publish, how they write. Then carefully read the guidelines to the author. This is most important. Before writing the article, you decide the guidelines. After writing the article, before sending, again read the guidelines. Then go through the checklist given in the journal. So while submitting the article, what checklist you have to follow, that also you have to read. Friends, suppose you have submitted the article. You are the author here. You have submitted to chief editor of the journal. So what he or she will do? He or she will give to the reviewers. Here there are 3 reviewers, for example, and for comments on your article. And they will give their comments to, again, back to journal editor. and journal editor will communicate those comments to the author. So what the author will do? Author will try to revise this article according to the comments of the reviewers and again resubmit. These are some of the peer-reviewed journals like Homeopathic Link. I have told you Indian Journal of Research in Homeopathy, International Journal of High Dilution Research. So I will not go through one by one. Then some of the suggested readings you have to go through, please. Lastly, I must give you thank you for patient hearing and sharing of your information. I'm sorry, I felt that I was in a hurry because I told to Dr. Ponda yesterday and also day before yesterday that there are a lot of material. For telling introduction, it requires one class. Or class means one session. For telling each section of the article, for reference, it requires 2 sessions. Now I'll invite any questions.
Sir, yes, there are few questions.
Right.
One question is from Dr. Siddharth Saurabh. Who can be the author when study was done by a large group?
Large group means study was done by large group, but one is study involved in the study, but second part is what? Somebody must contribute for manuscript writing, and he or she must give the undertaking that I will abide by the rules and regulations or by the of the journal, and the journal has the copyright, and I cannot manipulate my article. So all the undertaking he has to give. So 3 criteria. He must have actively participated in the study. He or she must have actively participated in the collection of data and interpretation of data, and also writing the manuscript, and also give the undertaking. So unless one has to fulfill the guidelines of ICMJE, International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, to fulfill the criteria.
Hello.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is another question from Dr. Hema Adwaryu. She is asking that, sir, will you please share your views regarding citation of the article and its importance?
Citing of the
Regarding citation of the article and its importance.
As I have told you regarding importance, I have already told you, if you do not do the citation, if you do not refer the article from which that source you are writing, suppose you are writing, or I am writing, PCOD is more prevalent among the age group 20 to 25. I'm writing in the introduction and giving the reference of gynecology or gynecology. Gynecology or gynecology, whatever, SHAW, and if I do not give the reference of that book there, then it will lead to plagiarism, because that is not my view. I have taken that view from gynecology book, textbook of gynecology by Shaw, or any other gynec book. But in your observations you can write, that is your observation. Ultimately, although it was written in the gynecology book that PCOD is more prevalent among the age group of 20 to 25 or 20 to 30, but in my study, in the present study, we found that it is more prevalent between 15 to 20. There you need not give any reference, and that is the important. That is the importance. Or if you do not give, that will lead to plagiarism. Somebody can drag you to court even. As I gave you exhaustively, a politician, a novelist, and two academicians, they were punished.
Hello, madam.
Yes, sir.
There is a question from Dr. Lipika. If it is a new drug on which research is going to be conducted, then what is the criteria for it?
Can you please repeat, madam? Can you please repeat his question? It is not audible to me.
Sir, I am repeating the question again. If it is a new drug on which research is going to be conducted, then what is the criteria for it, Dr. Lipika?
Please again repeat. It is not audible. Sorry.
If it is a new drug on which research is going to be conducted, then what is the criteria for it?
No, it is a new drug. New drug means you cannot prepare a new drug yourself. If you prepare, then there are some SOP, standard operating procedures like that. You have to do drug standardization. You have to evaluate the safety and efficacy. There are 2 things. You have to study the safety and efficacy study. You have to do efficacy of the drug. First thing is safety of the drug. This is a very good question. I must welcome I must appreciate the doctor who has asked this question.
Dr. Lipika, Dr. Lipika.
Let me tell you, you have to go through some SOP. What are the main SOP? Let me tell you, because I was the chairman of the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia Committee. Many people applied for including their new drugs into the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of India. So they claim that they have done the drug standardization safety study, efficacy study to know the efficacy. First, you have to try in the animal model, then you try in the human model. Then next will be phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 clinical trial. And that drug you have to go through the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4 clinical trial. Before that, you have to go for drug proving or homeopathic pathogenetic trial. And then you have to go for clinical verification, then clinical research. And in clinical research, what is most important is you have to do preclinical study to know the safety and efficacy. Then clinical study in 4 phases. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Please go through that clinical phases from the website. You can go through what are the phases of clinical trials. All these things you have to do, and then only it will be told as a new drug, and that has to be approved by the government of India. There are there is a subcommittee called DTAB. Now the name is changed. Then that committee will recommend to main DTAB, Drug Technical Advisory Body. Then that will be, when it approves, then it will go to Ministry of Ayush, because this is the homeopathy drug. So this is a rigorous study, but don't be disappointed. Don't be disappointed. If you do it in a real sincere way, it will be included in the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of India.
And my last question by Dr. Arpita Chatterjee: if we don't have a standard scale for assessing a disease condition, can we prepare our own rating scale for assessing the disease condition?
This is a very good question also, because all the questions are very good. And these are the practical questions. I have already told, while presenting, that there are some disease specific scales are there at the international level. And if you are doing that, your study, and for that study, if some international scales are available, please follow that scale first. If it is available, then her question is, if it is not available. So if it is not available, then that is a slightly rigorous process, and you have to take the help of the scientists. Scientist means, suppose my study is on BPH. Of course, for BPH, there is the international scale called IPSS, International Prostate Symptom Score. But suppose there is no scale. Suppose that there are many scales. For passive scale is for psoriasis. So there are different scales are there. Her question is, if no such scale is available, what is to be done? Then you have to take the help of, say, our apex body in research is Central Council for Research in Homeopathy. You can take their help. So request them to develop some scale for her, so that he or she will do research. Then what they will do, they will go to the Scientific Advisory Committee. Now it is called SAB, Scientific Advisory Board. They may invite some special guests, special invitees to develop a scale. And that one, suppose that scale is on your urological disorders. You are doing a study on urological disorders. So one urologist will be invited, 1 or 2 homeopathic specialists will be invited, and biostatistician will also be involved. When I was there, let me tell you here as an example. When I was the DG, we developed a scale for diarrhea. Simple disease, but to know the diarrhea, we developed a scale with gastroenterologist, with medicine specialists, and with homeopathy consultants and biostatistician. We have developed. Please remember that scale is one line. I am telling you, outcome assessment in percentage. You can write down quickly. Outcome assessment in percentage is equal to data, or the value at the before treatment minus the value after the treatment upon value at the before treatment. So and multiplied by 100. I'm again repeating, outcome assessment in percentage was, or improvement in percentage is equal to data at the beginning, means the value at the beginning, means before treatment, minus value at the end upon value at the beginning of whole upon into whole multiplied by 100. And we decided, the expert decided that if the figure comes to between 75 to 100, if the figure comes to 100, means total cure. If the figure comes to between 75 to 99, then it will be marked improvement. If the figure is between 40 to 60, then mild improvement, like this, or significant improvement. So like this, you can give the gradation. If there is minus means patient is worse. So you have to take the help of a expert group to make a decision. Next.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So let me tell you, you are all welcome to clarify your doubts, but due to time constraints, it is not possible. So Dr. Panda.
Sir, we will mail you the other questions. There are a few more other questions. We'll mail it to you.
Yeah,
So that if,
I'll
yes,
reply.
sir. Sir, please, if you will clarify the doubts. Now, sir, I'll invite Dr. Panda, sir, to present the vote of thanks, sir. Thank you so much, sir, from my behalf also. And I'll invite Panda, sir, now.
I will request Dr. Panda to tell my shortcomings. What are the deficiencies of the today's presentation? Please tell me. One thing is I was hasty.
Sir, it was very enriching. It was very enriching. We have written so many notes from it. Sir, it was very nice.
But not for Dr. Hina or Dr. Panda. Okay.
Thank you very much, Hinaral madam. I am overwhelmed that Sir is my teacher. He has taken my examination in 4th year, 3rd year also. Now, I have nothing to say about I am not fit to comment anything about Sir because he is my teacher. But it was very interesting. He started from the statement of Robert Taylor and ends with plagiarism, etc., with very precise manner. Thank you, Hina madam. It's my privilege and feel proud to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this session. I, on behalf of Faculty of Homeopathy, Parul University, and on my own behalf, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to Honorable Speaker Dr. Chaturbhuj Nayak sir for gracing the occasion and sharing with us your vast experience in scientific publication. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation, Dr. Chaturbhuj Nayak sir, for his brief and precise explanation of scientific publications. Further, we are grateful to Nayak sir for demonstrating his scientific publications, which are most important for PG and PhD students and faculty members also. I may like to express our sincere thanks to Nayak sir for giving an excellent coverage in this respect. I also wish to express my gratitude to Nayak sir for providing encouragement to prepare for scientific publications, point-wise analysis and precise presentation. We are all inspired by your great words. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our hearty thanks to President of Parul University, Dr. Devanshu Patel sir, Director Dr. Komal madam, for their motivation and encouragement to conduct such a webinar series for our stakeholders. Ladies and gentlemen, an event like this can't happen overnight. The wheels start rolling weeks ago. It requires planning and a bird's eye for details. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues. I extend my gratitude to the Dean of the Faculty, Dr. Purab Desai sir, Principal, Jawaharlal Nehru Homeopathy Medical College, Dr. Hina Rao, Chairman, Board of Study, Parul University, and Principal HNC, Dr. Hitarth Mehta sir, Principal, Rajkot Homeopathic Medical College, for making this webinar successful. I am extending my gratitude to Mr. Brijesh Acharya sir, OST, for the perfect logistic support and guidance. Guidance has extended to all of us. I am very much thankful to all viewers of the webinar. Thank you very much, sir. I am again hope the same cooperation in future. Thank you. Over to Hina madam.
Thank you so much, Panda sir. And we are very, very grateful to Chaturbhuj Nayak sir for sparing his valuable time and enriching our knowledge also. And I'm also very thankful to Dr. Bhasme sir. Bhasme sir was attending the webinar right from the beginning. I don't know whether sir is still there, but I'm very much thankful to Bhasme sir also, Dr. Arun Bhasme sir, to attend this webinar. So thank you so much, sir, and awaiting for your another session in the near future, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
And
much.
now we'll all, we'll leave the meeting, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. But you have invited me for this webinar, and we are inviting you for coming here to Homeopathy University as an expert of NABH.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
NABH expert at national level.
Okay,
It
let us
will be
leave
my
the
pleasure,
time.
sir. My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So we leave the meeting now. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Namaste.